So this also shows like a very interesting idea, which is the idea of making surfaces interactive. And this has other applications besides just arts. You can, for example, make your wall, the wall in your room interactive, or you can you can use it for something useful. So for example, you could have you read your email on your wall just by moving your hand. So whenever you move your hand like this, you go to the next message, and when you move your hand like this, you delete it or something. So there are several applications, and this is part of a project that we call Any Surface, in which like any surface in your room could become an interactive surface. My name is Ilan. I was born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and I've been in the US for 4 years now. I just graduated from Worcester Polytechnic Institute in Worcester, Massachusetts, and in the fall I'm starting at Cornell University in a grad program. I got my undergraduate degree in electrical engineering and mathematics, and I decided to come this summer to Santa Fe to work at the Santa Fe complex with like computer vision projects. So I'm working under Stephen Guerin, and I've been working on several different projects involving computer vision. And one of the projects I worked on this summer, which is probably the most rewarding one, is this one you're seeing right here. So I worked on this with my partner Ben for an exhibition that they had here called Projected Lights.
My name is Ben Lickner, and I'm a student at Brown University. I'll be a sophomore in this coming semester. And I'm studying physics and literary arts, I think, although it might change. And so I had been interning here. I started interning at Redfish, which sort of morphed into the Santa Fe complex. And so Ilan and I were just working on a lot of computer vision things, using projectors and cameras together and syncing them up. And so then there was this art show, and so we were told to use this sculpture that Paul Block had made. So we just sort of applied some of the code we had already written and wrote some, added on to that to make the sculpture interactive.
So we had this sculpture here made by Paul Block, and when he made it, he was trying to portray the difference between classical music and jazz music. So the upper part of the sculpture, as you can see, is all smooth, representing classical music, and the lower part represents jazz music because it has all jagged edges.
My name is Paul Block, and I made this sculpture in 1992 in the quarries of Carrara, Italy. And the concept behind the piece was the evolution of classical music into jazz. And as Ilan has pointed out, that the one thing that I'd like to point out now is that these middle sections for me represent the kind of a fundamental percussion rhythm section, and that transformed the classical line into a jazz line. And I loaned this piece to the Santa Fe complex about a year ago, and I never anticipated that Stephen Guerin would get the help of people like Ilan and Ben to do this light scan and music interactive program on the sculpture. And they managed to turn what was a very reticent form into something that speaks on multiple levels.
And the idea was to use projection on top of the sculpture to emphasize this idea and make it more clear to people. So what we did is we install a projector and a camera pointing to the sculpture, and whenever we see movement in front of the sculpture, we generate little things that we call agents. For example, if I wave my hand here, I create a bunch of agents. And when I wave my hand on the bottom part of the sculpture, I generate jazz agents, which turn on the jazz music. If instead I wave my hand on the top, on the upper part of the sculpture, I generate jazz classical agents who turn up the volume of the classical music. And this way you can kind of mix classical music and jazz music. To your own taste. And whenever they meet in the middle, they shoot those particles that represent percussion, which is in some sense what's common among all types of music. So just like the two parts of the sculpture, they come together in the center too, and they kind of generate percussion here. We also generate percussion when classical and jazz come together. You can hear the percussion. So this shows a really neat concept that can have multiple applications. For example, you can just find several different applications in arts. You can bring together computers and technology with sculpture. So you can basically expand and broaden art in general, because you can bring different types of arts together.
And as how I see this evolving, thanks to some feedback I got from my sister-in-law and my niece, who were dancers, is that it would be an interesting idea to do another sculpture with the idea of dance and music with the projected light show on it, and have dancers and a composer doing a dance and musical interpretation of that piece. So it's been an inspirational experience for me, which I never would have come up with on my own. So it's a very rewarding collaboration.